What's going on, Scott?
What's up, guys?
Not much. I meant to do the intro and I screwed it up, so we went live right away, man. Let's see. Hey, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Mike.
And you're Scott.
I
And
am.
we're live to talk some ODU hoops and the Sun Belt tournament, man. How you doing?
Good. Not as good as you guys. You're actually in sunny Pensacola, and we're fighting up the 50s here.
I don't know how sunny it is out there. It's man, it's really windy and it's dark, and hopefully it will be nice and sunny tomorrow. But things are going all right so far.
Well, we got about an hour before we find out who ODU plays, so I'm looking forward to figuring out which team for Louisiana we got to dig into.
Yeah, we're looking forward to watching that game.
So we got these awesome pamphlets today in the media room, and it talks about both teams. Like, I got one on ULM and one on Louisiana, but the storylines start out with a couple things that are interesting about Louisiana. This is their worst seed ever in Sun Belt history. The closest they've ever had to this was a 9 seed in 1994. They've been in this league a long time. For them to be playing on day one is a pretty big surprise to Louisiana fans. But they've also won one game every year since they've had the conference tournament in Pensacola. So there's item 2. And then they own Louisiana Monroe in basketball. Where is it?
It's small print, very fine, very fine.
I think I'm like burning myself. Oh, that's too late. I got to cut down my light. It's like glaring in here.
Did you put your sunscreen on? My wife made me bring mine down here just in case.
All right, so this is the 92nd meeting between Louisiana and Louisiana Monroe. 61-30 lead for the Cajuns.
Yikes. I would guess it's like that in all the sports. The Cajuns are pretty serious about their athletics. But, yeah, I mean, the Bob Marlin situation was sad to see because he was a guy who was like an all-time coach, there obviously in the conference to see him have to step down. But, it's kind of been we've had like one of these, it feels like every year in the conference the last few years, with D'Antoni, of course, last year. And then also you had, Cliff Ellis. And obviously Jeff had his situation last year with health. And, we've had these coaches who've won a lot of games that, run successful programs, come to an end. But, I mean, Marlin's situation was really unfortunate when they had to fire him, obviously, and that never goes well. But they've actually turned it around nicely. I mean, they're a much different team than the first time ODU played them. So that's not necessarily going to be an easy draw if that's the way it goes.
As well, ULM's coach is retiring after this season. That's what it says. It says Keith Richard announced on Friday his intention to retire.
That's it. So the ULM coach is going. UL just had a coaching change in season. So wow. Good time to be a Louisiana basketball fan, I guess.
I'll go one state over. I mean, Southern Miss's women's coach is retiring as well. She had her farewell game earlier today, and they lost
decisively.
Yes, it was. And so we went over and we got a good lay of the land. The Sun Belt's done a nice job with getting the stadium together and making it feel like a conference tournament. There weren't very many people there today. It was the first day, and the lower seeded women's teams. Marshall played well, and they won running away. They looked pretty good.
Yeah. The other thing, I was focused on the pep bands because there's no fans there.
Right.
These pep bands were bringing the energy today, and even when they weren't playing, they were trying to get some energy into the building, and especially the first game when both teams had a pep band. It was well needed and appreciated that they were there.
All right, I've got the $1 million question for people that are going to watch this game tomorrow night. Are the announcers actually in the arena, or are they still in New Orleans? Because remember last year's debacle where the clock got messed up on the score bug, and we thought ODU had won in plenty of time. And it turns out, of course, there was the clock had already expired, and we had no idea when you're watching at home. And people were like, "What happened?" And of course, it makes like awful announcing and all these other things, talking about why is the Sun Belt not sending their announcers. Did you guys see if there was an actual crew in sight on site today?
Yeah, they're not there.
Yeah, they're who knows?
We were sat next to the play-by-play guy for William and Mary.
No, Marshall.
Marshall.
Green.
Yeah.
Green is on the head.
Yeah, Scott Cotton. Steve.
Steve Cotton.
Steve
Nice
Cotton's
dude, super nice. Yeah.
Also, super impressive what he was doing. One-man show.
Yeah.
He's looking at the stats, calling the game by himself, and he had the perfect voice for it. Just kind of was watching him throughout the game in awe of what he was doing.
And he was kind enough to let us borrow his power strip as well. That dude, he was good to go. We look forward to seeing him tomorrow.
That's crazy. I hope there's no technical problems, because that was, again, if you're at home, you want to make sure like the clock's correct and these little things. But yeah, that's unfortunate that it's hard too. I've done these games from a offsite place before, and it's hard, even if you have the perfect feed and what have you, because if they don't have the score bug, you're focused on what you're doing. You don't have any idea what to tell that's a problem for the viewers at home. So let's hope it goes better than last year.
Yep, fingers crossed. We did get a chance to go to practice tonight, thanks to Mike Jones telling us where they'd be. They were at Pensacola State College.
Yeah.
Or City College, whatever.
The Pirates.
A JUCO. And a lot of intensity. It was a very intense practice.
Yeah.
No quitting these guys. Like, I don't know. What was your big takeaway, Aaron?
I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, they were it was intense, especially the big men. I mean, watching them battle and really putting the work in the day before this was something else. But very, very intentional, was very organized practice. Mike he went in knowing exactly what he wanted to do, everything, lots of situations, but then very cerebral at the same time, talking to the guys, trying to get them in the right, frame of mind. But I think the message is one of, we're here, we're together, we're a family. And we're going to take this one day at a time. And it's kind of like the, why not us type of deal.
Sure.
So on top of, you guys have been on a lot of bumps and bruises through this year to get to this point, and don't let the opportunity slip away when you have it at your grasp. So don't go through all that pain and just let it go and add more pain to it. Focus and take advantage of the situation you have in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure they've got a lot of confidence in the sense that whoever they play tomorrow, and even and if they make it through that, they've beaten them, those teams, right? Like everybody on that side, outside of obviously Madison, and they haven't played Troy, are teams that they've beaten. So that you would think is a bit of a confidence thing for them that should help them. But like I tell people all the time, they ask me, oh God, what happened, the season, or they not practice well, they didn't do this well. I'm like, no, they actually worked their asses off. Been to enough practices, been to shoot arounds. The scouting reports are amazing. I mean, Billy and I see the scouting reports for every game. They're on point. Everything that is laid out in the scouting report is exactly what happens. Everything that they need to do to win is laid out there. It's very clear. It's not complicated. And, so like they're putting in the work. They've obviously got some shortcomings with what happened this year with some of the people that weren't available and things that happened along the way. But, I don't think it's for a lack of preparation or for a lack of knowledge on that staff or anything like that. So, we'll see how they do this week. And I'm fascinated to see if they can at least get, can they build the confidence if you get the one under your belt, and from there, because it's hard, man. The way this thing is set up, I don't know what you guys think about it. In one hand, I applaud it. Like, hey, it really elevates the teams that earned it during the regular season. But on the other hand, it's like you're really almost cutting any chance of somebody like making a run in this tournament. Not to say it can't happen, and we've seen it crazier things happen in other tournaments, but the fact that you put the 1, 2, 3, 4 teams literally on the doorstep, and really the 1 and 2, I mean, my God, if you don't make it to the championship game, what an embarrassment. It puts a lot of pressure, actually, in a sense, on the 1 and 2 seeds for, like, if you don't get into the championship game, like, what's your problem?
Yeah, Scott, that's a great question. Mike and I have talked about that a number of times. Matter of fact, we had a conversation with Jason Mitchell about that during practice. I know I don't want to steal Mike's thunder, but a number of times Mike has mentioned that thinks like the 5, 6 seed kind of.
Yeah. I feel like
in a good position.
I feel like they're in the best position of anybody. Obviously, 1 and 2, you just take care of business. It's easy. You get 2 games, you're done. But I feel like the 5, 6, they get that one game where they can kind of knock around, maybe not have their best game, and assuming they can get through, they can then punch those teams have been sitting on the bench all week in the mouth. And then by the time they play the 1, 2 teams, like, they're comfortable.
Because the Pensacola Bay Center, I would imagine most people watching this probably haven't been there, but it's not like Chartway. Behind the baskets, it's kind of cavernous. It's they play hockey there. There's a lot of empty space, and especially with not being a lot of fans, it feels even the depth perception is a little different. So it could be very easy for a team to come in and struggle in their first game, trying to put the ball in the basket. These teams have like 20-minute shoot around. And if you're playing at 7:30 at night, their shoot around is like before the first game. So if you're not hitting on all cylinders, it could be bad. Like, you wait for a whole week. That's interesting, Jim. Yeah, it kind of is Scope-ish in a way.
Yeah, I would say Scope has better what's that area outside of the arena? Where you walk, the walkway.
The concourse?
The concourse at Scope is better and bigger than it is here. We were walking through from the media room to the post-game area.
It's a good thing I'm short.
I had to walk on one side of the hallway because my head was hitting the ceiling.
I don't have that problem.
Well, that's good. So how old of a building is that?
What's that?
How old's the building?
Oh, I was stationed here in 1997 for Officer Candidate School, and it was here. Okay. So, and I don't know how old it was at the time. Sure. It's not new.
But you can see that the hockey team that is there has made some nice investments to the place. They have a nice scoreboard, and then they have other video boards around the arena giving good stats throughout the game. The locations of them aren't ideal because of how cavernous those walls are. Right. But I don't know. I think they've done a good job keeping it maintained. It's almost like had Richmond decided we're going to just keep investing in the Coliseum, it's probably very similar to what that would be like.
Yikes.
Less each thing, but yes.
Yeah. With like one fewer, they didn't have that high section. That
hopefully without the leaking roof like Richmond used to have every once in a while, or the condensation on the floor.
What's funny about that though, Scott? We always ripped on the big brown dump, but I'll tell you, looking back, those were some pretty amazing times.
It was fun. I'm amazed that number one, the building is still standing and they haven't done anything with it. I was reading a story today actually online about there's this fight, I guess, about what is it really the best idea just to knock it down and or to kind of refurbish it or what have you. But yeah, but I just remember, I can't remember what year it was. It was in the 90s. I think Mike was playing, and there was a year where there was a game issue, because of condensation on the floor. They had a lot of those problems, because they of course had the ECHL, Norfolk Scope did too, and they just had some issues there. But man, it's I can't believe that place is still standing and they haven't figured out what to do with it yet. But that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, look, you're right. The weird part of watching it on TV when there's not a lot of fan interaction there, the depth of perception has got to be weird for these guys. It's not like playing in a dome, which is really terrible. The first time you do it, usually in these NCAA, regionals and Final Fours, obviously. But I'll be interested to see how they do. Hopefully, if you're having issues with depth of perception early, drive the ball to the basket, right? And take closer shots. Don't settle for threes all the time. Try to move the ball.
And it makes it feel even more because the student sections the small student sections. So you're talking like the Final Four where they have the student sections behind and they're large. These are much smaller versions of those, maybe 50 seats. And they're probably less than that, probably 30, probably like 3 rows of 10, but they're empty. And then the pep band is maybe 30 feet behind them on a kind of raised up on a stage. So they're pretty far away. So yeah, it will be interesting. I think you've got a good point there is to find a way to get some easy baskets and get used to it. But if you're going to rely on jump shots right from the start, especially if you're not a premier jump shooting team,
right,
it could, go away. You don't want it to go necessarily. One interesting thing I saw today too, I don't know if you knew this, but South Alabama, you realize they have 2 mascots? They have a male and a female mascot.
Fun fact, Aaron. No, I did not know that, but thank you. I had no idea. What is the South Alabama mascot? First of all, I don't even know.
The Jaguar?
The Jaguar. Oh, yeah. So you're saying they have like the Mr. Jaguar and yeah. I think a couple of years ago when we played down there, I remember seeing that on TV and thinking, oh, that's different. But now it's kind of hit me like a bolt of lightning. Yes.
Yeah, there was a weird part where the band was playing like a love song, the pep band was, and they were flirting with each other. And I'm like, this is bizarre.
Mascots need love too, I guess. I don't know.
Is it like a jaguar and a shagwar? I don't know. I don't even know what a female.
I don't even know what the female version of jaguar is. Jaguars? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Also, is these ULM and Louisiana game is got going there. It's not a offensive juggernaut of a game so far. 7-7 with less than 14 minutes to go in the first half. They are
like kind of rivals. Like that is like a thing down there. So those 2 schools do not have any love lost for one another. So maybe who knows? ULM they've played some tough games. They've actually, they haven't won many, but they've played some teams tough and they've had some weird win. I think one of their 3 wins was against a good team. I can't remember who it was now. They beat somebody like shockingly in our conference, but.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, ULM they embrace the M. Louisiana don't throw the extra L in there, man.
Yeah,
you get in trouble.
So ULM beat South Alabama.
That's right. Yeah, I knew it was a weird win for them.
Really early though, right?
Yeah,
really early in the season.
Yeah, that was January 27th. They won 77-66.
That was crazy.
It was at home though, in their weird arena.
Right. Well, you guys saw the game that we played them there, and you in Louisiana, and there might have been outside of the coaching staff, the 2 benches, maybe 15 other people at the game. It was crazy how cavernous that place was.
It's like one of those COVID games.
Yeah, they would have been better off putting cardboard people up. I think at the like I've talked to our staff about this before. You really are spoiled, like how here Madison, the difference in like interest level for basketball, right, versus the other schools for this time of year, for the sport, I should say. Even with some good programs. I didn't see Arkansas State at home. I'd imagine they're drawing now because they're playing really well. Yeah,
they finished first in the conference in attendance.
Yeah, they should. They got a lot of. You guys know, we talked about this. They put a lot of money in that program and football and basketball.
Yeah, I still blame the Jim Cantori for messing that up. We didn't have that snowstorm. We would have gotten it.
Yeah,
that 3,300 or whatever we had for the snow game just ruined our chances of maintaining that crown we've had for the last decade.
Yeah.
But the other interesting thing is it's Mardi Gras time, right?
Yeah.
So Sun Belt being headquartered in Louisiana and New Orleans has been doing a lot of during the breaks, they're doing all these Mardi Gras sort of things to try to fill the time for the fans in attendance. but they all feel kind of haphazard.
Like the bead toss. So instead of back home, we get selected to go and shoot a layup, shoot a free throw, shoot a 3-pointer, and you might win a $50 gift card for the diamond store that you're never going to be able to afford anything in. Here, they give you a pair of beads or a set of beads, and you have to toss it into a Tupperware container about 4 feet from you, and then they move you to the free throw.
And it looks like one they just found somewhere in the back,
the hockey
somewhere
locker
in
room.
the stadium. Like, oh, well.
We got some beads. Hey, a Tupperware bin.
Interesting.
Let's do this.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, I was thinking about this with the announcing crew, and then, like, you have the camera crew there, so you're just really talking about 2 extra people on the road and hotels in Pensacola. I mean, unless they're local in New Orleans, that's not going to be cheap during Mardi Gras week. Like, everything's like way up. So I don't even know if there's really any savings by keeping the crew in New Orleans this week. Is kind of wild too.
I don't know. Hey, Mike and I grab the iPad. We'll call the game from the stands. Maybe good to go.
Or maybe
we
the
can
crew
live
said, hey, look, I know you want to send us to Pensacola, but we're going to stay in New Orleans because it is Mardi Gras. And after we're done calling these games, we're going to go out. So I don't know. That might have also been the announcing crew's decision. I don't know.
Hey, if you're listening, thank you. This has been made possible for us to come down here for the pride of ODU, trying to bring some good coverage to Monarch Nation. If you have a question, drop it in the comments, whether you're watching it on Facebook, X, YouTube, wherever you happen to be seeing this. Either drop in the comments a question, a comment, whatever it is, whether it's about the men's team, the women's team. We'll answer it if we know. If not, we'll just make up an answer to the question and pretend like it's real.
Did you guys dig much into the selections, the All Sun Belt on the men's side? I was looking at that earlier today with all of it. But the one glaring theme that looked like was there, it was juniors, seniors, grad students. Mainly seniors, juniors, grad students. You had obviously a kid who was a redshirt freshman, Bryce Lindsay, who was on the 3rd team from Madison, but he was at Moorhead last year with the coach. But again, it looks like in these leagues, in the mid-majors in particular, if you're able to have some experience, guys that have been in your program for a while, I mean, you're going to get better results. I mean, that's, it's cool. You can get good freshmen now because these power fours aren't touching them. But it also, like, if you want to win this time of year and win big, you better have some experience.
That's a good point. I know the 3 of us have talked about that on a number of occasions. It's a challenge. It's as a coaching staff on what direction you want to go, because obviously the P4s who have a lot of money, they're going to do what they want to do, and they've got the resources to execute whatever it is that they want. So at the G5 level, you as a coach and coaching staff, you kind of got to make a determination of which direction you're going to go. Are you going to we're going to try to play the same game and go to the junior college or the transfer portal and not say take the P4, the leftovers of who the P4 doesn't have an NIL deal or some attractive way to get them? Or do you say, I'm going to go to the high school route because these kids are under recruited now because the transfer portal and the microwave culture of we don't have time to let them mature, or they're going to, and then they're going to transfer somewhere else. So it's kind of like this. Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is, there and that, or it's some mixture of the two. Probably, obviously, the Sun Belt, very physical league. We've seen that since we've joined, and if you're not able to play a physical style basketball, you're at a huge disadvantage. I mean, in the practice tonight, and Mike and I have been to a number of practices before, and obviously all the games, but I don't know if I just haven't been paying attention or what. But the physicality between the big men battling down low tonight was more than I can remember ever seeing. I mean, and I guess they have to do that to be competitive in this league. But it's hard for a high school kid to be ready to do that in this league.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how talented they are, they're going to have some bumps, some growing pains to learn in, the college game, what have you. But yeah, I think it's just interesting. Just the key, the teams that have been able to retain. I mean, look at App State, kept 2 of their guys. Obviously Anna Chili Killen, who was the all defensive player at Marshall. been a big reason why they've had such a good season, despite coaching change and everything. But I mean, if you're able to retain guys for an extended period of time that are obviously good players, then your success in this conference appears to be a little bit more likely than if you're not as experienced, or if you're and you could have experienced guys and maybe they're not having good years, or whatever, or they're injured or what have you, and that obviously is a factor too.
I mean, our roster, I mean, you think about the guys that are a little bit older, even they're not that experienced. I mean, Cal is a junior, and he's never really been in this role before, and he just played spot minutes in Maryland. It's difficult, but those teams that were able to maintain those older guys, they did it because of their support of their NIL. Which, if you're listening and you haven't joined the collective, this is your sign to do that.
Yeah, you have to be able to. It's a multi-pronged approach. Obviously, a coaching staff, a program has to be able to build a culture that guys, they feel valued, they like where they're at, and they see a path forward that they can be successful. Whatever it is, whether they're academically, they're super happy and they see that pathway forward, whether they want to play in the pros and they're being developed. But on the other side of the equation, it's just a completely different ballgame now, and NIL is part of that. So if you want to be competitive, you have to be able to do all of that stuff, because if you're churning every year, if you've got 10 new players every year, it's going to be very difficult to put those pieces together on a regular basis. I mean, you might be able to do it one year, but trying to do that year after year after year is going to be super difficult. And I think only, probably the upper echelon of P4s can get away with doing that, as we, the whole one and done culture that we had before. And not all those teams were able to do that super successfully. They bring in a bunch of 5-star recruits that are going to get drafted immediately. And we saw like teams like Kentucky underperform certain things. So, And then you see a team a couple years ago like FAU, who's able to put a team together and keep a team together and compete at the highest level. So
continuity is huge. We saw last year with JMU. That was a veteran-led team with guys that had been in the system for a while. We're seeing with App State. Arkansas State, they've done a little bit through the portal and JUCO, but they have their core that they brought back this year from that team that started with Hodgson, and they're doing it again this year. And even JMU, while Spradlin is new to JMU, he brought guys with him that won with him before he got here.
Yeah,
so
he brought
they had that core together that already knew what the coach was expecting and how to play for him and how to win. It just shows you how valuable continuity is in this game.
No question. And I just look at like a team like a program like Kansas, true blue blood, right? Having an awful year for Kansas. I mean, they're like borderline tournament team, and that also can show you just a bad portal year, right? Like you just don't have the right mix, whatever, it happens. And then you look at St. John's, right? A year ago, Pitino hated his team, famously didn't like these guys. And then, hey, one good off season of portaling. Hey, I love everybody, and it works out. But yeah, it's not as simple as it seems, even for the best programs, the ones that are used to being in Final Fours. I mean, you see it, and it's wild watching this whole ACC SEC shift, right? And, the ACC can't just sell, hey, we got this tradition. Here's, this is where, Dean Smith had lunch every day, or, Roy Williams did this. Carolina found out the hard way. It's like, what do you got for me? That's what it came down to. And now they're like, okay, we got a GM in here for next season, right? And so, like, even at that level, it's like they're figuring it out as we go along here. And we don't know what, 3 months from now is going to look like, let alone 6 years, So it's interesting to see, but I'm big on the part. I think that's true. What we're hitting on is continuity, experience, with your best guys, and guys too that are, that are your leaders, that are really leaders, right? Like, you just can't be appointed a captain. You have to like earn it and improve it over time, which I think will be will be interesting to see, like how they decide when the season's over, like, when guys do their thing and who the program decides they want to keep, and how that's going to look.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. One thing we've learned from talking to other people around the conference and listening to other people talk about NIL is there's it's added a whole nother wrinkle into the college team kind of dynamic. Because let's say everyone makes the same amount of money. There's nothing to get mad about. But this is business, right? There's going to be guys that make more money.
Sure.
And that can lead to some strife inside the locker room.
100%.
Especially if people are underperforming.
Right.
You got to have, you got to have strong leadership in the locker room. You got to have guys that have to, once the deals are made, the deals are made. It's time to play ball. You know what I mean? Like, you can't go back in. But, yeah, there's no question that's human nature. It's like your regular job. See somebody come in and, is above you that you don't think is doing a better job, or you're carrying their weight and, and those kind of things, And in this case, maybe it's something as simple as, this guy's got a better car than I do, or whatever it may be. And you kind of figure it out on your own. But yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, this is the part that college athletics and everybody's not ready for, frankly. And this is like really just being young. I mean, you're not ready for it. And then imagine if, you had the option when you were, in the work world to just jump in something called the transfer portal and have people, deciding to give you offers and tell you things will be better over here, even if they won't be. But what do you know? I mean, how do you know until you get over there?
We do have that, Scott. It's called LinkedIn.
Except I ain't getting offers. I don't know, whatever.
I'm getting a lot of bots asking me for my opinions on things, but that's about it.
That's right. I'm getting a lot of text messages telling me that my tolls from MassDOT, I'm responding to them on the phone right now. But yeah, hey, Chris, you're absolutely right, and that's one of the things that Coach Jones has really talked about a lot is trusting the process. Embracing what's going on and just taking one play at a time. He's really trying to build that here. And I know that you're around the program, so you definitely see that. While Mike's looking at this thing, Justice, it's too long to list what the Whataburger order was because
Whataburger?
I haven't been to a Whataburger since 1998, and Mike had never been in a Whataburger, so it's like, what didn't we order?
Right.
But I got a strawberry shake. Mike got the chocolate Mexican malt or something
Mexican
like that?
hot chocolate shake. I was expecting with the hot in there for it to be spicy.
Right, was it?
Didn't take any spice up. It just tastes like a chocolate shake.
And to be honest, we haven't eaten yet, sitting over there getting cold, but like a burger with Whataburger sauce or what a sauce, I'm sure someone will correct me. A spicy chicken sandwich with something else is what I got waiting over there.
I got a number one. I've never been there. I got to try the number one, the basic.
But what I will say is, man, that had to be like one of the nicest fast food chains ever. Like the guy he must have been the manager or the assistant manager, was as helpful and as nice as can be. I mean, one of the most polite people I've ever seen outside of Chick-fil-A.
You could tell he was going through it because he was doing a little bit of everything. Like when we walked in, he was cleaning and mopping the inside. And then he's like taking our order. And then he's putting the food together. And then there's one cook. That's just, he was having the worst day.
Then he was making our shake. And remind me, Scott, we're about the same age. You remember in Living Color? Did you watch that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Always.
Yeah, they were talking about the Wayans brothers where it was like, I got, what was it, Amon? Like, I got
Amon,
5 jobs, man.
I got 5 jobs, man. Yeah.
That's what that dude was doing everything. It was impressive.
That is. So you guys hit Buc-ee's on the way down, too, I saw, right?
We did.
We did. And it was a much more pleasurable experience than the one in Florence, South Carolina before the football game in NASCAR race.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could get in without, it wasn't a mosh pit, which was nice. We got cheap gas.
Yeah, my first experience at Buc-ee's was, I don't like this place. There's too many people.
Yeah.
I need to get out of here.
That's my wife.
And this experience, we went there, the one in Auburn, Alabama, and it was pleasant because there wasn't too many people.
Right.
Obviously, it's even if you don't want to go in there, the gas prices are worth stopping.
Yeah.
They suck you in. It's like a tractor
Well,
beam.
you got to go see the bathrooms. I mean, you got to go. I mean, even with all the people that are in there, the bathroom cleanliness is incredible. And I think about it every time I walk through a place. I won't call them any names, but it rhymes with saw, and my feet stick to the floor. It's disgusting. And I like this place because I like their coffee. I don't like people saying "Go Birds" to me when I go into the ones in the Northeast. But anyway, I like that place, but it drives me crazy how disgusting their bathrooms are after being in a Buc-ee's. You know, it's like, come on, man. We can all do better. And the Buc-ee's bathrooms are much
So I have a
larger,
couple of
by the way.
thoughts.
You know,
I have a couple of thoughts. Well, one on the bathrooms. The one in Florence, South Carolina. We didn't go to the bathroom in the one in Alabama. The one in South Carolina, they had a bunch of art on the walls walking to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I remember looking at the art prices of the cost, like talking about like $1,000
You're
pieces.
like, I'm at a gas station.
I'm at a gas station thinking about going to the bathroom, thinking about buying $1,000 piece off the wall.
While I'm eating a brisket sandwich and getting some beef jerky. It's
Right.
amazing. I mean, but I think they pay the people who take care of the restrooms. I think they make like $22-23 an hour. Like they compensate.
They make
well.
like they advertise on the outside. It's like a $50,000 minimum job per year, and like that's your job. Like you're not doing anything with the gas pumps. You're not stocking stocking. You're literally in the bathroom like every hour getting cleaned up. So it was impressive. Their plan there is very sound. I don't know if I need all the Buc-ee's merch like they sell or whatever, but there are people that are very into it. I'm not going to dog you if that's what you want to do. But yeah, it's an interesting place. It's definitely better than your average run-of-the-mill. Hey, I'm going to stop here and grab coffee and go to the bathroom. You know, no offense, saw, but you know, you guys used to be the case.
It's much more dangerous than saw. Like you can get a nice tumbler and you pick it up and you're like, okay, this is going to be like $25, and you go $13.
Yeah.
You throw it into the basket. You're like, this must be mismarked. I have to buy this. Then I got to get a t-shirt for the kid. Oh, beef jerky. They got zero sugar Bohemian garlic beef jerky. I got to try that. Then some spicy nuts or whatever. Next thing you know,
spicy nuts are amazing. Yeah, the pecans or whatever they are.
The gas station.
You can't eat one of them. You're going to eat the whole bag before you get halfway down the road. They're addictive.
I did do that. Hey, Michelle, what's going on? Chris, we haven't gotten to McGuire's yet, but we're going to. That was my spot way back in 1997 and 1998, and I understand that it's pretty much the same. The dollar bills are all there, and Mike and I are going to find our way over there at some point. Hopefully, it's very difficult for us to get there, navigating Old Dominion winds, but we definitely are going to put it in there.
So right now it's 22-21. Monroe is winning.
Wow.
But let's talk a little bit about these two teams that we could be facing tomorrow. Starting with Louisiana. Looking at their statistics, 3-6 at home, 5-4 on the road. The one thing that jumped out to me looking at their stats is they hold their opponents to 28% from three.
It's good. Really good.
And that's probably going to get held. That probably is going to happen again tomorrow or tonight. You know.
Yeah, I'm looking at this game right now, trying to watch it like you guys are. That is impressive about the Cajuns, and you know they kind of redid their team like mid-season, right? Like with the coaching change and everything, so they kind of changed philosophies a little bit. So they're interesting. I mean, I know it's 11-20. People are looking at them like, yeah, whatever. But to me, of the two teams, they're the most dangerous between them and Monroe. And you laid it out earlier about the Cajuns with the with what their history in the tournament of at least moving into a game.
A ULM is shooting 28.6 from three right now.
Yeah,
right on average.
The
I
Cajuns
don't know
are
what it is.
42% right now.
Yeah, it's keeping them in the game.
And I guess this is a season conference-wide issue. But if we look at their points by halves, it seems very similar to ODU. A lot less in the first, more in the second.
Is that because there's like
no
foul calls in the first half and a billion free throws in the second half? Like we got to make up for it?
I assume it's just the teams are getting comfortable in that first 10 minutes, and you end up with lower scoring most games. They're trying to
Get their groove.
both teams are trying to just find their way against the opponent, and eventually in the second half, you'll get more comfortable and score more points. But
I don't know.
yeah.
I mean, what do you think, Sky? Who would you rather play?
I'd probably
You have a
rather play
preference or you
Monroe
not care?
just based on the Cajuns' history in the tournament, and I do think they're actually playing better now with as the season's going on with the coaching change, because like I said, I think it took them a little while. But yeah, I mean, you're going to get whoever you get. I mean, again, you beat both teams. You beat Louisiana earlier. You beat Monroe. Monroe was the first game, right? Yeah, it was the first Sun Belt game of the year for ODU. It was like at the end of December, whatever it was. Yeah, it was at and that was an overtime game. That was an overtime game. It wasn't like it was an easy game for ODU. I mean, they really had a battle to win that one against Louisiana.
The answer is clearly we want to play Monroe. Looking at the conference statistics, they are a much worse defense. Their opponents are shooting 45% against them, 34% from three. They're out rebounding ULM by 7 boards a game. We want Monroe.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed. I mean, even though ODU beat the Cajuns a lot, it was a double-digit win, right? And didn't have to go to OT. But I agree. It sounds crazy, but again, that game was in December. I mean, ODU obviously had different personnel then. I mean, Steph Walker played in both of those games. Obviously, he's done for the year. So, we'll see. But yeah, I think Monroe you'd rather have, but you get whoever you get. At least you have a good feel for both of the teams, even though it's been a few months. One way or the other, kind of how the styles will be. But I agree. I mean, Monroe's going to give you more shots for sure than the Cajuns are.
And while you mentioned it, I think we should talk about Walker and what his absence has meant to this team. While he didn't, I mean, he kind of does a little bit of everything. He defends, he rebounds, he can score a little bit, but the team just hasn't quite been the same defensively or offensively since he's gone out.
Yeah, he was a guy who would sacrifice his game maybe to a fault at times. Or, he would give up shots and try to look for his teammates. I think the other thing, we're talking to Mike and a couple of the other coaches about it. He was big with he was their big communicator on defense, right? Like he was the guy who would tell people, what's kind of quarterbacking them, so to speak, where to be. He was a talker on defense, which helped. And then, I think we were just, it was a shame because I feel like like you said, he could do everything. Like some nights, whatever you needed, he would bring it for you. And it's not an easy player to replace. And a guy who actually had played a significant amount of college basketball, and was also a leader in the locker room. And so it's tough. I mean, you can only do so much from the bench. I mean, I think they've been fortunate. They've had 2 guys, that have played a lot of college basketball that have been kind of like the, other coaches that, like closer to the players, and with Emo, obviously, and then with Steph here recently, I see him very, very, getting in guys' ears and stuff, but it's a shame, and hopefully everything, in terms of his rehab will go well, and he'll be ready to be ready close to the start of the offseason, because he's a guy who can definitely be a big part, moving forward for next year. But yeah, I do think the interim part is that the defensive thing, from what they say, the communications has been probably the biggest killer without him.
That would make sense. As much as this team switches, as many moving parts as there is on defense, you got to have that guy, that quarterback or that middle linebacker that's kind of directing traffic, and when he sees someone that's getting out of position a little bit or whatever, can kind of turn that and be that second voice, because it's oftentimes very hard to hear the coach. Mike could be trying to give directions on the screen, but you're down the court, things get loud, you get tunnel vision. So to have a guy that you respect on the floor, that you hear something and you just act, you react, you don't think about it, and you go, it's really valuable.
Another thought on the communication is it's something that Mike has stressed all season long.
Yep.
And it's continuing to stress. We were at a practice last summer where the team wasn't communicating enough. So Mike made them get in line at the baseline and walk hand in hand or arm in arm up the court, back and forth, yelling, I think their names. And until he was happy with it, they had to keep going. And I don't remember how long it was, but it was kind of like, as a bystander, it was hard to watch, but also like you understood what he was trying to get across to them.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, a
funny.
good 4 or 5 minutes probably. I mean, it was, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this game tomorrow. I feel good about it. I really do. I mean, the guys looked focused tonight. It was not, it wasn't a long practice. I mean, what, hour and a half, maybe? So it wasn't extremely long, but it was intense. It was focused. They hit the things that they wanted to hit, and then they wrapped. Obviously, they came back. They're eating.
They're going to watch film tonight. Sure. Tomorrow they have an early shoot around, I think 9:30. They come back here, eat breakfast, and then they'll start with their walkthroughs and try to watch some more tape after that.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch the walkthroughs the day of games when they, especially in tournaments settings when you don't know your opponent the night before, and then you got to really flip on the thing. The good news is, again, they've played both of these teams at least a few months ago. People have changed in a sense, but at least you have a feel for what it's going to look like. Just looking back and thinking back, I mean, that was probably, in terms of the Sun Belt, I want to say that was Robert Davis's best shooting day by far, right? The Monroe game, he had a 32-point game. He shot the lights out of that game, and I think we've talked about this. The disparity between the out of conference and then in conference, shooting percentages for him have been pretty. They've dipped a bit in the Sun Belt play, and he's very streaky, as we know. But that was the one team I think he was able to maintain it longer against, which was Monroe. But the Cajuns will bring a different type of a different kind of scheme, and obviously as the season's going on, now that people know what Robert likes to do, things have become a little bit tougher for him to get a shot off too.
Sure. This would be a great time to get hot. I mean,
yeah,
it'd be nice. You never know. I mean, walk into the Bay Center, get comfortable, you make some shots, and then get super comfortable. You could be here for 6 games, and if you find your stroke and you like this place, you could go off for a while.
I mean, Duro Gordon is going to be him. It's going to be Duro Gordon. Jaden's going to have to chip in with his. They're going to have to get something from Caden Diggs from the bench, and the RJ Blakeney, difference of games. I mean, we need to see the more consistent guy. I mean, his last game, even though he didn't shoot it well, was great in a lot of ways. The way he defended and was really engaged against Coastal. But I look at that senior night game, and I mean, that's the guy you want. Like the guy shot out on a rocket ship, going in and throwing the ball down. I mean, that's the guy you need. And again, as a 5th-year guy, he's played a ton of basketball at Dayton. I mean, there's nothing to hold back at this point, man. We need you. He's really got to be super focused for them, and kind of show the way. He's got to really create that leadership presence on the floor, for this team if they're going to do any type of have any type of success over these next several days down there.
Noise, yeah.
RJ is such an interesting player because there's times where it kind of disappears.
Yeah. And
then there's moments like that, those last 5 minutes of the Georgia State game.
It's fantastic.
Where the Marshall game, where he just dominates the game. He takes over and he's the best player on the court. And it's kind of confusing.
He's so good taking the ball to the rack. Sometimes I think he settles for the jump shot for whatever reason, but when he gets ahead of steam going, he's tough to stop. He finishes well. Yeah. I really hope that's the RJ that we get in Pensacola. We need that. One guy that really didn't get mentioned that I think's got to have a decent outing for us to be successful is Cal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Cal's got to stay out of foul trouble and be able to be on the floor and do the things he's capable of doing. I mean, you don't just come up with 7-foot guys who are athletic, can move, and can defend. And the longer he's able to be available, the more successful I think this team is going to be.
Also think back to that App State game when we had Danny and Donovan come together and put out a great performance, and how much that changed this team's ability to win. If we can just get the bigs to play focused basketball, we'll be in a much better position to make a run here.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Danny, and I was just thinking about that Georgia State game again, how great he was. And he just, he did so many good things, shooting the threes and then taking it at the rack. And that dunk he had was like, was incredible. And that version of him too, right? Like, and Mike has said it. He goes, look, I called him out in front of the team afterwards that we need that Danny Pounds. And of course, didn't really get it, the next couple games. So whatever it was that got it out of him, before that trip, that's what they need to get from him again. He's got to be at that level. You're right, because if the bigs play well, Cal can stay on the court. Those things matter, and they gotta do a good job screening for Jaden, and he's obviously got to make the good decisions for the basketball. And truth be told, I thought the Coastal game was probably one of Jaden's down games we hadn't seen many of them this year for a freshman. He's been really good, but I didn't think that was probably his best night. But they still were able to find a way to win. So hopefully, all these guys got all that out of their system and are ready to be locked in tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, we don't know who we're going to play yet because this game's tight. I mean, it's a 2-point ball game at the half. ULM's down by 2, 26-24.
Somebody from Louisiana.
We got to watch 20 more. What's that?
Somebody from Louisiana is who they're going to play.
Yeah, somebody. That's right. Either someone from Lafayette or someone from Monroe. Either way. But we have not seen the ladies down here yet. I think both teams flew down together. I'm sure we'll run across them tomorrow, but
we haven't really been in a hotel today because
that's
well. They're Friday, right? They're good till Friday.
Yeah,
that's great.
So yeah,
looks like they'll get Georgia State or ULM or Georgia Southern.
What was interesting is, even though they're a much higher seed, the Southern games have been very challenging for them, right? Because they won the one at the buzzer and then they just lost the one down there a couple days ago. So yeah, that could present quite a challenge if that's who they end up getting in round one.
Yeah.
Also interesting is we might end up facing Texas State again in the conference tournament.
Oh, man. Yeah. As Jim Heath shared with us last night in a back and forth discussion, that they've kind of been our kryptonite, I think were the words that he used. So
it's a good way to put it. Well, they played. I watched that game, and I know you guys did too, because you were trying to figure it out for the men, like how the seeding was going to work out. Their game against Madison the other night, they were terrific. I mean, they're one of the higher scoring teams in the league anyway, especially at home. And, obviously they're not going to be at home, but still they've got to have garnered a lot of confidence from that game. I mean, they played lights out to, take Madison down to the 2 overtimes.
Well, there's no, there can't be any hijinks here of like fans pulling fire alarms or anything like that to get people to not get good at sleep. Because if that's the case, you're going to pull the fire alarm on everybody, because it seems like every team is staying at this hotel. So throw that one out the window.
Plus, all of our games are, if we keep winning, they're all 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, they're late. Yeah. They're all going to be the night games. Well, hopefully they'll keep it going. I mean, again, they got to feel loose. Like, what do you have to lose at this point? You know what I mean? I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of expectation, really, for anybody, frankly, that's playing these first 2 days. It's very challenging. I mean, with it, like we talked about earlier, the way it's set up with the 1 and 2 already in the semis, 3 and 4 in the quarters. I mean, you're really putting these teams in a tough spot, and it just obviously goes back to how important the regular season has to be for you. And and unlike the NCAA college, unlike the college football playoff, it's not something they plan on tinkering with after 1 year. Like, this is what they're going to do for a while and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So I got a question for both of you and all the fans listening. We see this conference layout. It's obviously built to protect the top seeds in the conference and hopefully send them to the NCAA tournament. It's a meat grinder considering where the men's team is. If they have any chance of going to the tournament, they got to win a lot of days in a row. So, and I think we can all agree the odds are stacked against them. So for you guys, watching them and rooting them on, what would be a successful tournament for you? Do they need to go to the final? Is it 1 win? Is it 2 wins? Is it 3? What do you think would be something that we can use to go into this offseason and feel a little bit better about this program and where we're headed into the offseason?
You want to go first, Scott, or do you want me
Yeah,
to?
you go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron.
All right. For me, I think we need to be playing Friday for it to be a successful tournament for me. So tomorrow, these are 2 teams that we can compete with, and I will be disappointed if we lose tomorrow because I know this team is capable of beating either of these teams, even when those 2 teams play their best. We just are capable to do that. Then I want to see how the team responds against a team who's kind of been a thorn in our side. All right. I like the men and the women both to be playing Friday. I think if we can pick up 2 games like that, it gives the core of this team something really tangible to hold on to and to look forward to for next season and growing. Obviously, I would love for us to win this whole thing, and I'm cheering for us to be able to do that. But if we can win 2 games and we can compete on Friday, I'll take it as a positive sign.
Yeah, I think you got to at least get 1 here. I try to – like it's hard to say what's going to help you in the offseason. This is more of a – I guess for fans it's different. But like for the team, I don't even know – frankly, I don't know what the team's going to look like, come April, once the portal is open for business. I mean, who knows, right, what we're going to be looking like at that point. If it's even going to be – hopefully there's some people you want to keep that are coming back. But you know how these things go. I mean, things can get a little sideways when we get to the offseason. But for me, it'd be nice to see them finish off just playing well. I mean, like you said, you might lose to a team that's a thorn in your side next, in Texas State. But, if you could at least play competitively with them, I know we beat them earlier, but that's, that was a game at Chartway. I'd like to think you win tomorrow against whichever Louisiana team it is. I think they're capable of beating both of those teams for sure. And then, like you said, get to Friday and see what happens from there. That would make you feel good. But I don't know if there's any real momentum build outside of winning the thing, because every year is so different now in college basketball with like your rosters and everything. It's hard to say. But yeah, I mean, for the fan base, you want to, you're going to put some time and effort into streaming the game. You want to see them win.
Also, well, I'm thinking about like the freshmen. This is a freshman heavy team, and every game we can play in this tournament is valuable experience for them moving forward. And it's something they can use to build upon this offseason. Guys like Jaden, guys like Caden, guys like Scotty, V.
Yeah. It's almost like I see it almost like getting a bowl game in football, and those guys get an extra 12 practices or whatever it is. Like every it's a win or go home situation. So these are experiences that these guys get that can't get any other time during the season. The only time you get it is literally the end of the season of the win or go home. So The more win or go homes you have with the preparation in between on short, I feel like it's exponential growth that you can't manufacture. Like if you don't get it, it's just gone. So that's kind of where I'm at. That being said, I mean that's just my opinion. That doesn't really mean a whole lot, but that would put me in this is where I feel good. You make a really interesting point though, Scott, about the fans, because obviously all this stuff is focused around the team, but the fans are truly important. And the fan base in my opinion, needs to have something to look forward to, especially now with the portal and everything and the lack of or less continuity. Just go back a decade, and we took for granted who would be on the team the next year. So the Frank Cassells, the Kent Bazemores of the world, you just knew they were going to be back. There was never a thought of the transfer portal or that you had to worry about some NIL deal that Power 4 conference was going to offer. Like I can just imagine that team with the Ben Phineas and Darius James or Gerald Lee before. Like it would have sucked back then just worrying about from year to year when you see a guy like Kent would make an exponential jump from year to year. And then his freshman year, his redshirt freshman to his redshirt sophomore year, and then you go, oh, shit, Kent's probably not going to be back next year because fill in the blank, someone's going to offer him $30,000 or whatever to represent the auto dealership in XYZ town, or Frank or whoever. It's just so much different now there that I think the fans are aware of that too. It feels different. College sports feels different, and I think the fan base needs to have something to really to hold on to look forward to get excited about. And Mike and I are constantly talking to people about the pride of ODU and what we can do as just us normal fans. Like the people, we don't have a lot of money. We have what we care about. We have our time. We have the things we do. And if we can all come together, if 1,000 of us, 2,000 of us can come together in smaller amounts, we can really be an effective force, an effective army to be able to rally around all the big sports. But those folks need to feel that they're making an impact. And let's face it, our big sports have struggled a little bit of late. And a lot of the fan base, we hear from the fan base, I think feels beat down a little bit. They see JMU succeeding. They saw VCU succeeding. So I almost feel like we need to get a couple of wins from them just so they go, okay, we got something to grow on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is room for growth, assuming you keep the people you want to keep, right? Like that's always you got to be honest about it. It's a what if still.
Great
I mean,
point.
the coaches know that because there is some young. I mean, look, the amount of experience Jaden Johnson's received this year is incredible, and the way he's handled it. I think Caden's got a lot better as the year's gone on. Hubbard's been really good, give these opportunities lately. And again, Danny, if you can get the consistent Danny, out of it, and with, if you think you keep your core, it's an interesting group with, some hits in the portal, obviously, maybe get some experience out in the portal too. But, it's always kind of a weird place because then, you're talking about more games, more exposure. And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking kind of like these college football coaches, like, I'm not even showing my spring game anymore because I don't even want people looking at it. And then I'm thinking, well, hell, what if Caden, or somebody blows up in one of these games and you knock somebody off? Is that like, it's like somebody like, all right, we're going to get this kid in the portal. Like that's the crazy psychology of it now, which is so stupid. But it is kind
it's
of
like the player version of Andy Enfield, right?
I think this is the spring game thing is stupid to me. Because any of those players that those guys are kind of looking at, they already know who they are. The spring game, not being able to see the spring game is not changing that.
It's highly paranoia is what it is. I can't remember which coach was talking about it the other day, but they did admit like that they'll watch some of those games and be like, oh, who's this kid? Like they actually did that. And I was like, wow, that's weird.
Who's this kid?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I think it was Matt Rule was talking about it. It was Matt Rule talking about it. Yeah. It was interesting.
I think
Anyway.
there's a story from the Raiders a few years ago. That tight end that before I forgot his name. He was the one on the Ravens that had the drug problem. He was
the guy who's at a football now. Yeah.
So the Raiders had an inter-squad scrimmage against them. And I think it was Gruden saw him and goes, who's that guy?
Yeah.
And
Gruden's voice.
He ends up becoming a pretty good tight end for them for a few years.
I mean, Scott could probably do a pretty good Gruden voice.
This guy here, Spider Y Banana. Yeah. So yeah, I know you're talking about. He did like a weird video. He retired with the Giants just recently. Real strange thing.
Yeah, Kelsey Plum broke up.
Yes.
And he made a weird song about it.
Yeah. That's so terrible. I totally forgot this guy's name. I actually thought it was a good move by the Giants, and then of course he ends up retiring like a year later. That was weird. Yeah, I know what you're talking about though. But yeah, you're right. Like that. Yeah, Darren Waller. There you go. Google.
Oh, yeah, that dude was good.
Yeah, he was.
for
yeah,
like
that's
a
funny.
minute.
It is funny because you do these inter-squad. Like, teams do remember that stuff because, Aaron, this year when the Commanders went and got Seibert, right, Austin Seibert, they signed him, made the trade with the Jets after they were down to like kicker number 5 or whatever the hell it was before the season, and got him in there. And because he kicked against them in the inter-squad, or the shared practices. Jalen Holmes, who of course is from Virginia Beach, who they got off the waiver wire after the Jets cut him. They saw him in those practices as well. So, man, some of these dudes, like, they're always looking for talent, no matter where it is. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So.
All right, Scott. So we've had you on for an hour and 10 minutes. I think this is a good place to wrap it up because we're now talking about football.
And spring games that aren't happening.
Okay, well, yeah, spring game. Our spring game is going to happen, but
it's not a spring game. It's
never really been a spring game,
open
right?
practice.
Yeah. And it will never be
we
televised
don't really-
either, by the way.
Oh, no. Old Dominions will never be televised.
Coach Ronnie's not about that life either. He's not going to step in for UNC either on Hard Knocks, from what I've been told. So he's not interested.
Not in the locker room, at least.
Not running those cameras in the locker
Not
room.
any class.
Nope.
No, not at all. I think we do need to wrap this thing up. But before we go, obviously you don't see as much women's basketball because you're so busy with your actual real job, being the number one sports personality in the Hampton Roads. I would say Virginia, for sure. Women's basketball, Old Dominion women's basketball. Obviously, they're playing on Friday as their first game. Their seating is a little bit more of available pathway to compete for the championship. What do you guys think the women's team needs to do to win this thing? Because they've been a very inconsistent team.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest.
Find some
They're
consistency.
on, they're really good.
Right. Like, see the team we saw beat Arkansas State down when they were in that hot streak, right? Like that kind of performance. And then they had the game after that where they wanted the buzzer, and then they go on the road, and then they don't play as well, right? Like, so they got to kind of find that. I know. I love talking to Coach Jaleisha Milton-Jones about her team, and we had a good conversation a few weeks ago about, or I guess it's like last week, about, just kind of like where things were. And, this is kind of where your seniors and your experienced players have been with her for a while. Have got to step up, right? They got to take the ownership of the stuff on the floor and being consistent. There's only so much yelling and clapping she can do at them. And they just gotta take it. I mean, this is a team that last year, remember how close they were against Marshall in the tournament. And that was a great team, right? I mean, that was a team to beat last year. And it's not, Madison's been ridiculous on the women's side this year. We think their men's team's had a good season. Their women's program's been untouchable. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I just think they just got to find that consistency, and hopefully, their best players perform at a high level. Buford, second team all conference for a reason, and Cunningham's does everything every night. Those are the kind of players, Fontana, that got to post in this tournament.
I think the other bigs need to come through. Snacks, Brenda, Simone all need to have good games throughout this tournament for them to have a chance to play on Monday.
Yeah, this team, butters its bread on defense. Yeah. No one's going to accuse this team of being a great offensive team. So they've got to lock teams down on defense and score enough points to win. As dumb as that sounds, we've got to score one more point than the other team.
Yeah, but you do.
Can't give up a lot of easy baskets. And, yeah, I think for me, Brenda's like the senior statesman of this team. She's got to hold this team together, and she's got to play her best basketball of the season. And when we talked to Delisha wanted Brenda taking 6 3-pointers a game. Take 6 to make 2. And we really haven't seen that much of that this season. We're going to have to see her do that. and then you put it together with the things that Mike talks about. Obviously, the team is tough and they don't give up. I mean, India and Simone are a couple of the toughest women's basketball players that you'll see around, and there's absolutely zero quit in them. They've got the JUCO kind of pedigree in that they've been around and they've played a lot of basketball, and they're comfortable with the ball in their hands. But I mean, it's still not an easy pathway. I mean, playing on Friday, you got to what 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that 5?
1,
2.
2,
I can't even count.
3, 4.
4 games. They got to win 4 games. So obviously they got to win the first game of Georgia State. And who won today?
Georgia Southern plays ULM tomorrow.
Yep.
Winner of that game plays Georgia State.
So
winner of that game plays Old Dominion.
they'll have that. And then if they can get through that first game, they've got Coastal. They just played Coastal at Coastal, a good Coastal team, and they were able to win. So, I mean, we've shown that we can beat any team in the league.
But we've also shown we can lose to any team in this league.
Yeah.
And it's anyone's guess which team shows up on Friday.
Yeah. So I think you take that Friday game, that Saturday game, if you're lucky enough to play well and do that, then you got the purple people that we love to cheer against waiting for you, and that team is very good.
Loaded.
But that would be a good problem to have. I mean, if they're playing JMU on Sunday, then things are going the right way. And I think that Delisha and her staff would be thrilled to know that they're playing on Sunday against James Madison and embrace that opportunity and let the chips kind of fall where they may. And you hope that JMU's just been waiting so long to rusty.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. This is will be the interesting experiment, right? With these teams that have to wait so long to play. You know, like how's that affect them? It's a long layoff. You're used to playing a couple games in 3 days or 4 days, depending on the week, right? And then this will be at least a 8-day layoff for most of these teams, right? Or these higher seeded teams, I should say.
Well, they've been doing this in the West Coast Conference for a while now, right? For Gonzaga. And it really hasn't hampered Gonzaga's ability to win that.
No.
But we also know how much better they are than the rest of their conference.
Yeah.
So it's not really a good barometer. Do the women in the West Coast Conference do this same bracket?
No idea.
Because that would be interesting to look at who's won that historically, if they do.
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm not
Do the research department on that.
Yeah, exactly. Where's James when you need him? We don't have a James.
No.
We got a Mike. So he's googling that bad boy. But we're looking forward to tomorrow. You know, if you're down here in Pensacola, please come find us, and we'd love to chat. If you got questions about the pride of ODU, we certainly look, we just got our research department. Thank you, Mike.
Boom.
They do.
Yeah,
So,
Mike figured it out.
That's true. We didn't say which Mike. But really the question is, what do the stats bear out?
Right.
So, Mike, can you tell us if
is it highly weighted towards the conference winners, the regular season winners, I should say? Right. That would be the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. With the Gonzaga on the men's side with Gonzaga, it's been not a problem at all.
Well, last year Portland was the 3 seed and they won it.
Yeah.
So that would be a Saturday.
If you're in the top 4, though, it's such a huge difference. I mean, even if you're just playing, you're starting in the quarterfinals, that's a lot easier than having to run that gauntlet to even get there to the Friday in the men's side or the women's side on Saturday, I guess it would be. Right. Yeah. Anyway.
Good deal. So you going to be tuned in tomorrow night, Scott, to the game?
Yes, sir. Hopefully they'll have that score bug fixed. Case it's close.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how much time's really left in the game. I might have to text you guys to give me real-time countdowns and stuff because, I don't know, hopefully the Sun Belts fixed the glitch from last year. But, yes, looking forward to it, whether it's Louisiana or Louisiana Monroe. I do like it when we beat the Raging Cajuns. Yeah. My boy Brian Mitchell is, of course, an all-time Raging Cajun, and I always text him the scores and screenshots of the pictures. He usually sends me something back on a finger of his. But anyway, but we've done pretty well overall in sports against Louisiana, and it looked like they've opened up a 5-point lead with about 15 to go now.
Yeah, they have. I think your stream is a little ahead of ours.
Yeah.
We got four points. I can't math that good, but anything can happen. 15 minutes. But yeah, tomorrow night, I look forward to everybody being tuned in. Stay tuned to our social media channels. We'll be putting out what we can out here and try to make it feel like all of Monarch Nation is here in Pensacola as well. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Scott, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know it's past your bedtime. You got a lot of research to do for tomorrow. But as always, thank you so much for coming on. Mike, any parting shots?
Baby. Go Monarchs.
Go Monarchs.
Go Monarchs.